Welcome, all of you. We're very happy to have this large room for this. We can't really see you, but we can feel you. The topic today will be creative use of AI in audio. Personally, I come from Danish Broadcasting Corporation. I've been doing TV, radio, interactive for 27 years, which means I've sort of been following what happened when the internet came and how we're using it in different ways. And I'm sort of always been a little bit skeptical about it, even though I use it all the time. I even use it, I'm doing an AI project at the moment, but I never really fell in love with it. On the other hand, my good friend Lars is a totally fan of AI and has been working with this for a long time. And I thought, who would be better to have in this chair and to disagree with than one of your best friends? So Lars, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, the hope is that this is not going to end in a fist fight. If it does, we're looking for a referee to come up and stop it, just in case. But yes, I've worked in the sort of creative industry for the last 30 years or so, a lot with technology, was part of the internet startup days in the mid-90s, and spent a good stretch of time working at Google as well. And the last couple of years, I've focused mostly on what can AI do for creative people in general, specifically creative industries like TV, radio, film production, and advertising.
So those of you who love AI and audio and maybe are using it, probably a lot of you are using it already, you came to the right session. Lars will take you through a lot of the tools that are available to use. We can't show all of them, and I'll share some of the doubts I have, wondering if I would not prefer AI to actually go away. This French philosopher called Kåre V Poulsen once said that he studied technology, he studied speed. And he said, if at the moment you invent something, you immediately also invent the downside to it in technology. So if you invent the plane, you automatically invent the plane crash. And what I'm feeling when I look at AI at the moment is that we might be watching a plane crash in slow motion.
Well, at least it's in slow motion, so we have a chance to get out. But the reason why we have to focus on AI today and in the future is that, much like in the movie The Matrix, that's 25 years old this year, can you believe it? You had to choose between the red pill and the blue pill. You can either choose to take the red pill and ignore what's going on around you, or you can take the blue pill and be part of the actual thing that is happening in the world. And if you look at what's happening out there in the world, this was an experiment that they did at Wharton School of Business last summer, where they gave the same brief to innovation students, humans, and to ChatGPT, and asked them to come up with 10 ideas each. Then they showed all the ideas to a panel of people who had no idea whether it was human-generated or machine-generated, and 8 out of the 10 ideas that were deemed to be the best came from machines. So the competition is pretty fierce out there, so we have to be very, very good to compete with the machines. It's also interesting to see how in journalism, AI is starting to get used more and more. So 5 of this year's Pulitzer Prize finalists have used AI to produce the work that's been nominated for a Pulitzer, whether that be in research or in writing or in creating parts of what they've done. It's a little hard to say from this article, but we also know that there was was it a Chinese bestseller where the woman admitted, or Japanese?
Japanese bestseller. She was using ChatGPT as a tool. It was revealed after she published the book. But the thing is, it was actually a novel that had a ChatGPT in it, and she wanted it to be very likely to a ChatGPT to write this. So she actually had a good excuse for this.
Gotcha. And if you were at the session this morning, you see this is the speed with which things are evolving. So it's incredible how fast this technology is evolving, from basically Picasso-esque outlines of a human face to perfect renditions of humans by image generators. But this is one of the more interesting ones. You can't see a damn thing out there, I'm aware. But what it is 123 AI experts were asked a year ago when they thought some key milestones would be reached in AI. And then they were asked again a year later. So first in 22 and then in 23. And everybody had basically moved their thoughts on when certain things would occur, sometimes decades forward. That's how fast things are evolving. So that's the situation that we're looking at when we head into the world of AI.
I'm going to move on with some of the boring things here, because I'm just worried about some of the speed this is taking up with, and of course all of the generative AI tools that we are talking about here. If you talk about ethics, I'm divided. I mean, because it's just, do we really understand what we're doing? As far as I remember, there was a calculation that there's a 10% risk that AI will destroy the world. Imagine this is a gun and we're playing Russian roulette. Do we like the odds? Who can decide on behalf of mankind that we want to run this risk? I mean, that's not a trivial issue. If you talk about ethics, I mean, there are a lot of questions to be asked to these language models behind it. I mean, the transparency, we don't really know how these models work. What data are they trained on? Can we be sure that they are not using bias, full of biases? I mean, in these training data and the language models we use. Also, I read a recent analysis from the Technological Institution of Copenhagen University saying that the climate imprint of using a prompting is quite huge. One prompt means charging your phone 40 times or driving 1 kilometer in your electric car. I assume when you do your fantastic pictures, Lars, you would use 20 prompts to get to that point. That means charging your phone for 2 years, driving 20 kilometers in a car. And the amount of prompting is just at the beginning. Now it's going to go steep up in the use as people start using AI. And I think this climate impression is quite huge, and it will just go up. Microsoft are paying for sort of for keeping these data centers going, so the bill doesn't go to you. They spend $700,000 a day on electricity to keep it going. And in return, of course, they hope that more people will pay for the big version of ChatGPT and make a profit on all the data they can upload when we prompt. But I think when I see some of the stuff that is being prompted and what it's used for, when I see we're going to see a Johnny Cash song later, I mean, what are we going to tell our children? That this is what we ruined the planet for? I'm not totally convinced about that. Also, I think OpenAI was created as an altruistic project, but now they turn it into a money-making machine when they start asking questions to Sam Altman, the board. The board was fired, and now they are running it for money. And that's, I mean, I think that's a huge change in what is this supposed to do good for. Yeah. And then about the rights, we have this Springer model versus the New York Times model, where you just steal and there are lawsuits. I mean, several lawsuits are already underway against these companies. I mean, applies to OpenAI, to Meta, to Google, to Copilot, to Midjourney, and the reasons are simple: copyrights. The large language models are trained on text information that are just stolen. And the logic for the plaintiffs are that it should be fair and ethically responsible. I see a lot of lack of, responsibility here. So I mean, there are a lot of things about these where I think it's a huge problem that OpenAI come and say, we will be forced to steal this, otherwise it won't work. Well, in that case, because this is a classic tech giant argumentation, first we break the law, wail loudly when you discover it, and then demand that the whole thing would be redone for the sake of the market, for the profits. If you can't make a business model for your plagiarism machine that works without theft, maybe this is the market's way of telling you not to make such a machine. You could say that. When it comes to the content, I don't know if you want to reply to this, but I think that there are some arguments here that might, yeah.
I mean, I spent most of my career in advertising. I have no ethics. That makes it a lot easier to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Do you want to skip to the next slide?
Sure.
Okay.
It's just about content, because this is, of course, another thing that is incredibly sort of apparent here, that we are creating so much more content. And I'm wondering whether we need more content or we need better content, because there will not be more listeners. And we have been hunting authenticity for a long, long time when we are making our programs. And now, at the moment, 10% of the audio created content out there is synthetic, and probably in a couple of years will be 90% of all material on the internet will be synthetic as created by AI. So I'm just thinking, all the things, that are out there, synthetic, based on maybe biased or stolen. What is there to trust anymore? What is going to happen in the future? And I think there's a risk here. And eventually, what do we need humans for?
Were you really sad when you read the last Harry Potter book?
No.
A lot of people were incredibly sad when they read the last Harry Potter book. There's a lot of fan fiction out there, people writing more stories set in that world. There's a guy who created an AI that does nothing but write episodes of Friends because he just didn't want that to stop. So I think it fulfills a certain human need to have the ability to create the content that you actually want versus waiting for some human to do it. So I guess it's a matter of who's judging, who's reading or watching what, and who gets to decide what's good and what's not.
I agree with you in some senses, but this content is more interesting to the people who create it than the people who are going to use it.
But when do you think we're going to get to a point where you can't tell the difference?
I'm not sure. So what do we need humans for? Lars said we are weird, but we have other qualities, as in my terms. I mean, if you listen to Elvis Presley, Jeff Buckley, Edith Piaf, Johnny Cash, I mean, suffering, pain, joy, and guilt, fear come with being human, and I think will be part of creating sort of works of art, music and stories and so on, instead of just double replicating what's already out there. And I think we actually have a responsibility to preserve this and to sort of keep this as a sacred thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think as I said this morning, for those of you who are here, like if we can lean into our humanity and really become as human as we possibly can, with all the foibles and faults and flaws and, weirdness that we have inherent in us that's not easily replicable by a computer, then we have a chance in this world. If we just go the straight line, do what we usually do, and think about things as we've always done, I think we're basically screwed. So I hope we don't.
Eventually, for the humans, I mean, in an AI world, it will be that robots will help us work less. It's not what I see. I mean, we actually just have less time to do whatever we want to do. And those who make the profit out of it is not us getting time. It's just whoever owns the platforms will actually be, or whoever sets the task will be the ones to sort of...
It's also a bit of a surprise, right? We always thought the robots were coming for the manual jobs, and then they came for the white-collar jobs, and we're all like, didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's dive into a couple of interesting things. But before we do that, I figured this would get so dour at this point that everybody would be sad, talking about humans versus machines. So we asked this website, this AI called Suno, if it could write a theme song for our presentation today. And we gave it the prompt, a wistful ballad about people at a conference looking forward to going to a beer hall in Munich at the end of the day. So this is what we asked for, and this is what we got.
In the silence of the conference hall, we sit and listen, but our minds are falling. Thoughts of laughter and good times to recall. We count down the hours, can't wait for the end of day.
I mean, that's touching, right? It's touching. You realize that right now you're applauding a machine that wrote this song, but I will bring your regards to the software.
I was worried and pissed off, and now I'm depressed also.
Well, well, thankfully we'll be talking about voice changers now, so maybe we can help prep you up a little bit as well. So voice changers are arriving in a big way where you can basically sound like anyone. I'll show you a couple of examples and we'll talk about what that potentially means. So you may have heard of 11 Labs, which is the leading software provider within voice. And here's a little video that shows some of what they do.
Introducing 11 Labs speech-to-speech.
Now you can record and transform
your voice into anyone
or anything you could
possibly imagine.
Hit speech-to-speech, choose a character, and start recording.
Giving you
control over their
timing, inflections,
and the emotions.
My. Wait.
I could be anyone?
Oh, anything?
Anyway.
all driven by the power of your voice.
Breathe life into your characters with 11 Labs. Speech to speech.
But of course, one thing is changing your own voice into something else. It gets a little bit more murky when you enter into a world where you're changing one voice to sound differently and have different inflections, like the people from Play HT are doing in this video.
When I read the script, I remember thinking, I haven't read something this original in a very long time. You know, I've been so busy. I'm working on a lot of things that are important to me. You know, I've been so busy. I'm working on a lot of things that are important to me. I've been so busy. I'm working on a lot of things that are important to me.
You know, I've been so busy. I'm working on a lot of things that are important to me.
忙しかったんだ。僕にとって重要なことにたくさん取り組んでいるんだ。
Vous savez, j'ai été très occupée. Je travaille sur beaucoup de choses qui sont importantes pour moi. Weißt du, ich war so beschäftigt. Ich arbeite an vielen Dingen, die mir wichtig sind.
Come experience our new voice model for free at play.ht.
So the first part of this video where you're able to change the inflection and tone of your voice, it worries me in a year of elections, undoubtedly. But what they also do is they make it so incredibly easy. Like how to start using AI News Reporter voice generator. You essentially follow an outlined, is it 8-step model that allows you to very quickly, very easily start your own newscast using AI voices sounding incredibly professional. And who's to say that your professional newscast won't actually be confused with an actual newscast from a respected source? That's probably the biggest challenge with this. You're also starting to see companies like Adobe, who have been big in graphics and in video editing, now entering voice in a big way, making a whole suite of tools that just makes it easier for you to do everything with audio. So changing voices, Kåre, what do you think about that?
Well, of course, I see the qualities in terms of creating content easy and quick. You take away a lot of jobs from skilled people, and you also, I think, create a world that is where you can trust less what you hear and what you see. And whenever someone is talking to you, you're not quite sure whether this machine or whether the emotion is real. I'm sort of thinking that it's like taking away the most precious things that we have. Creativity I mean, I'm feeling a little bit uneasy about that, because what's left for us to do if we don't have actors anymore, if we don't have, if we don't need hosts that actually have, and also, the craft of actually learning a skill and using it. I think I'm going to miss that when this takes over.
I was actually going to talk to the tech guys up there and have them change your voice as you were speaking and answering this question right now. A sort of silly, high-pitched voice, which would have been great fun. We'll do that next year. So we talked a little bit this morning about the disappearance of language barriers. And I want to show you another video from 11 Labs about how they managed to translate into any language under the sun on the fly.
11 Labs Dubbing Studio is here. Now you can easily translate your videos for new audiences around the world. Just upload or paste a link, choose a language, and click Create.
It's one small step for man, 却是人类的一大步.
Instantly dubbing your content into multiple languages for a global reach.
I'm Popeye the Sailor Man.
The dubbing studio automatically detects multiple speakers, giving you precise control. Rename the characters, edit, and regenerate the dialogue until the accent and emotion
Soy Popeye el Marino
is just right. And when you're finished, you can add even more languages to expand your reach.
In a land where the sun scorches the earth.
You ain't from around here, are you, boy?
In una terra dove il sole brucia la terra.
Você não é daqui, não é, garoto?
Und die Pferde sind so hartgesotten wie die Männer.
11 Labs Dubbing Studio, bringing your stories to every corner of the world.
So suddenly you can speak any language under the sun.
It's fantastic. It's just incredible you can do this, and so quick. I'm also thinking, A lot of translators will be out of jobs, and also, I mean, eventually, if you take this to its end point, we don't really have to learn other languages, which again would be a lack of understanding culture, understanding what origins, because language is also, part of your identity. So I think there's a lot of sad things about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, that I remember my math teacher being very vaguely panicked when pocket calculators became a thing, and trying to outlaw pocket calculators in class. And I wonder if everybody's going to carry around this little thing in their lapel in the future that just automatically translates what you're saying. We're essentially entering the Star Trek age with what we're doing right now.
Basically, also, I think, we need to understand other countries. There are a lot of disagreements in the world, and overcoming a language barrier would be really nice if it is translated right. You still need a human being to actually make sure it's translated right, which again means that we sort of have a computer that we're helping to get cleverer than we are.
And of course, for many countries around Europe, I was at ORF in Austria doing a presentation there, and one of the people in the audience was very white in the face while we were talking about this, and I spoke to him afterwards and realized that obviously dubbing is a huge industry in many countries where everything is translated into their national language, which you can now slowly see will fade away, probably over time. And we're not talking about decades, we're probably talking about a handful of years before that's mostly gone as an industry. I'm going to skip this one. Don't you think?
That was fast.
Yeah, it was really fast. I figured since we don't have that much time, we'll skip that example. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about automated content generation. And of course, as journalists, as many of you are, creating content is in itself the most important part of what you do. And we're starting to see things emerge where the role of the human almost gets written out of the picture. I don't know how many of you have ever used Perplexity.ai. Can you raise your hand if you use Perplexity every now and then? That's like 2, I think, that I can see from up here. For me, Perplexity has more or less replaced Google, because what Perplexity does is it gives you not only the answer to your question in plain English, it also gives you links to all the sources it consulted to get to that answer. But what I want to talk about right now is actually the Discover button that's over there on the navigation right under Home, because the Discover button collects news stories from around the web based on what you have asked it before. So it gauges your interests in specific news topics and then puts together a news feed for you based on what you have previously searched for and asked it. And for instance, this is how it looks when you do a search on Perplexity. So you can see the sources and you can see the answer. But what's really interesting about the Discover feed here is that they have just started doing a daily podcast, where you can essentially determine what length you want your podcast to be, and it will take all the things in your Discover feed, and then it will turn it into a podcast. So essentially, it's all the news around things that you are interested in based on your search history. No humans involved at any stage of this process. And I've listened to a few of them. It's not bad. I mean, it's actually pretty good. And I think if you didn't know that everything from beginning to end was machine generated, you wouldn't necessarily know it. And then, of course, I don't know how many of you have seen this Channel 1 AI-powered news network. This is a video news network, a TV news network, but the same thing could easily apply to a TV station. It's a long video, so I'm just going to show you the first 10, 15 seconds of it.
In early December, a video popped up on Twitter claiming to show the world's first AI-generated news presenters. The new network, named Channel 1, which fully launches in 2024, seeks to reimagine the global media landscape. Channel 1 features a mix of fully generated reporters and so-called digital doubles. They're able to deliver fully personalized news with a host of different personalities, appearances, and even in different languages.
Για παράδειγμα, αυτή τη στιγμή μιλάω στα ελληνικά. O kung pinapanood mo ako mula sa Maynila, marunong akong magsalita ng Filipino. எனக்கும் தமிழ் பேசத் தெரியும் என்று நீங்கள் யூகித்திருக்க மாட்டீர்கள் என்று நான் நம்புகிறேன்.
But what is the point of AI-generated news? Adam Mosam, the founder of Channel 1, says the purpose of the network is to become the #1 place for personalized news in the world.
Our approach to the news is we have 3 types of anchors.
Anyway, you get the point. Essentially, they are trying to skip human involvement in doing a news show, a 24-hour news show like CNN or BBC or any of the global news platforms. What do you think, Kåre? Should we just get rid of all the journalists and have the machines do the job?
I'm a big fan of human beings. I really like authentic experiences, and I would probably not be a super fan of watching a news host that it doesn't exist. I truly don't like it.
So we found something that you genuinely don't like. Have you tried any of it?
I think I guess it's an algorithm, but still, recommendations from other people, you change during your life. And if you have sort of a recommendation machine that will just be built on your previous choices, where is there to go from there? You're just going to fall into your own rabbit hole deeper and deeper and become a very tedious and boring person.
With this, I actually agree with you, because I think surprises are what gives us the biggest revelations in life. Things that we didn't know we were going to be interested in, we suddenly discover that we are passionate about. And it's hard if everything gets tailor-made to your taste.
I think it also, we end up in a Barbie and Ken world where there's no friction, there's nothing nothing that you have to sort of figure out because you don't get sort of challenged as a species. This is going to just accelerate like wildly, and eventually, we're going to end up as really, I think, simple creatures.
In this, I actually agree with you, unfortunately. So let's just quickly skip to something we can disagree about. So we'll talk a little bit about audio deepfakes now, but first we're going to play you a song.
Hello, I'm not Johnny Cash. I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. Life in plastic, it's fantastic. You can brush my hair, undress me everywhere. Oh, come on, Barbie, let's go party, 'cause I'm in a Barbie world.
I think that's actually the best version of that song I've ever heard.
Yeah, there aren't many of them, are there?
More than you like.
I think he has a right to die, Johnny Cash. I feel really sorry for him. Yeah.
Don't you think Rick Rubin might have asked him to sing that song had he still been alive?
I don't think that's going to happen, no. I'm not sure about that. Eventually, when you can do this, you can do anything. And if you can't trust who's talking and you don't know who's singing, if you're a singer and you know when you die, somebody's going to, fuck you like that. I don't want to be who wants to be a singer anymore? Because anything can happen to that. I know we can't stop this, but it's okay to have an opinion about it, isn't it?
But don't you want Jeff Buckley to record a new album?
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
You can make some amazing cover versions. Anyway.
That song, that's the reason why we want to really ruin the climate with all the prompts and so on, so this song can be out there. Are you going to tell your children that?
This is why we can't have nice things. I'm going to skip this example here and just have one quick, fun little thing here before we head into...
Democracy is a fragile thing. More fragile than you want to believe. If the election fails, there is no democracy. I don't have to do anything. You're doing it to yourselves. People are divided. Your voting districts are manipulated. Voting locations are closing, so millions can't vote. It's not hard for democracy to collapse. All you have to do is nothing.
So that's pretty terrifying in a year with elections in the US and various other places around the world.
Yeah. It is.
Good answer. Good answer. So, starting to wrap up, in the words of Doctor Who and the Daleks, resistance is futile. I don't think there's that much we can do. We can't put the genie back in the bottle. I think we can have important conversations like this around some of the themes that we've briefly touched upon, but we could probably sit up here and talk about this for the rest of the day. But I'm not sure we can stop the train.
No, but I think we still have to talk about what kind of society we want. I think we want to, as humans, we still want to have a say in this, and media has a huge say in this. Eventually, as was said in one of the morning sessions, we want to treat people as citizens, not as products or consumers. And we actually need to really think about what we put out there in the world and how we do it, and with what responsibilities we are and ethics we are putting into this. And also, I'm just thinking about all this. Why do we want to remove the immense joy of being creative and give it to machines? The joy of being sort of the satisfying feeling of making an effort and creating something out of nothing ourselves. That is the utmost enjoyable feeling that I know, apart from sex. Poof, gone. Is this what we want? Do we want to sort of push this out there? I'm not convinced. I know there might not be a lot of things to do about it, but I think at least resistance is mandatory.
I think there are AIs for sex as well, but that's a different conversation for another conference maybe. A friend of mine who works at Google talks about the age of AI and uses the words uncomfortably excited to sort of narrow down how she feels about what's going on and where it's all headed. And I think that's kind of probably how I feel a little bit as well, is that I actually think that my creativity is aided and abetted by a lot of these machines. I mean, just creating presentations like this is something that I, as a trained writer, could never have done before I mastered how to do image generations. And music is really fun to play around with as well. So, yeah, I'm excited about it, but slightly concerned.
I agree with you, and of course, I'm playing a role here. I'm playing around with these toys as well, and I love to do it. I'm just also divided, because with the speed of things in AI, do we understand what we're doing? When the creators themselves recommend a half-year break from inventing anything into AI, I think we should listen. Is that a warning signal? I mean, maybe it's the most exciting time ever to be scared shitless in.
An exciting time to be scared shitless. If you take nothing else away from this session, take that. But I do think that made by humans is going to be a thing in the future. I usually tell a story, this slide, about the time my wife and I were visiting the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul. And after successfully avoiding getting dragged into a carpet salesman or rug salesman's shop, eventually one of them got us. And as we're sitting in there drinking mint tea and talking to him, he tells us that every single rug created there has one minuscule flaw in it. It is not 100% perfect, because only Allah is perfect. And I've always thought about that as an interesting thing to do that really speaks to humanity and the imperfections and the flaws in things that we do. And I do think that human created will be a thing in the future.
Of course, and of course, as media, I think we should be very, very transparent about when it's made by humans and when it's not. Apparently, it decreases.
All right, quickly wrap up, so we have time for a few questions. Come to the summit in Copenhagen if you're not doing anything, or beam in. Kåre is from DR, and that is me. And now you are welcome to ask questions for the next 7 minutes.
You've obviously stunned them into silence. We have got Philip over there with a microphone, so please put your hand up. We've got about 5-6 minutes for this. As a hand here. Philip, just here at the front.
If you don't have any questions, I'm going to torture Kåre by playing more Barbie Girl by Johnny Cash, and you don't want that on your conscience, so please dig deep and think about what you're going to ask.
Can you say where you're from, please?
Hi, I'm Sophie from Munich. I think one important factor about AI is the discernment that every individual should have. AI has no heart. It is heartless. And whenever a person is creative, you put your heart and soul into creativity. And my question is, what is the solution? I mean, I understand the doubts, I understand the risks, but what is a path for discernment as an individual? Is there heart in this matter, or is it just a machine? How do we learn to discern this? And how can we solve the problem or these questions?
I mean, in some senses, we're waiting for the politicians to make some of the rules for actually, paying whoever has a heart in sharing content and so on. Because, of course, if your machines are trained on these data, they will just sort of copy something that reminds you of something with a heart, but isn't. But these are really difficult questions, aren't they?
I mean, if I can approach it from another angle, you could argue that the machines have eaten the heart and soul of millions of people's content. and have assimilated it all to the point where they may know more about saying romance or love, in theory at least, than any one human can ever do. Now, that is, of course, a provocation to say that that's so, but I think for now, the teamwork between humans and machines is a really interesting zone where we will get outcomes that we wouldn't see with machines alone or humans alone, and hopefully, at least that's what I dream of when I wake up in the morning with the sun on my face, is that maybe we'll see things that wouldn't have existed if we hadn't had machines play part of it.
I'm rarely touched by a work of AI, a work of art made by AI, personally.
You wouldn't read a book written by an AI?
Well, I wouldn't choose it myself, definitely.
What if you didn't know and couldn't tell?
Yeah, that's a problem, isn't it?
But hang on, actually, let's examine that a little bit. Why is that a problem?
Well, basically because when I read a book, I actually would really like to have a new experience from a real human being, and something that is not a replicate of what has already been experienced. I think what is special as reading a book is a meeting place between the people who read the book and somebody who's sitting with it. And I think that is a genuine meeting, and I would really hate it to be deceived here, not having a real human being. The meeting place would be different for me. And I realize it's happening. I'm just saying I'm not very happy with it.
But couldn't you argue on some level that a very well-trained AI could be the sum of human experiences and actually have a deeper insight into everything than any one human could?
I don't know, because I haven't read a good book yet written by an AI, and I still have to see it coming.
It's going to be interesting to see.
Which AI-written book is your favorite?
Oh, I've never read a book made by AI yet. But remember what we always say when we have these conversations, this is the worst it's ever going to be.
Yeah, sure.
Any more questions?
Anybody else who'd like to ask a question? Anybody else? There's a gentleman here at the front. If you could say where you're from, please, that would be appreciated. Thank you very much.
Jussi Putkonen, Finnish Broadcasting Company. Thank you for a very good show, and the demos were very enlightening. But there's lots of bad people, bad governments, who would be very interested in using AI for bad purposes. Are there any evidences, or are there any proofs that AI is used for let's say like developing weapons or viruses?
I mean, knowing humanity, I would be very surprised if there aren't people working on that right now. But the analogy that I usually use is that if you have a hammer, it is an incredible tool that can help you build a house, and it's an awful tool that can help you kill a person. And humans have been using tools since the dawn of time. That's what makes us human. And if we look at AI as just another tool, then it will obviously, yes, be used for terrible things, but hopefully also be used for incredible things. I mean, some of the uses we're seeing within medicine, they're starting to break down some of the diseases that we've been unable to ever get to the bottom of, because the machines can crunch the numbers much faster and much better. So my hope is that we will end up with the balance where humanity and machines coexist and help each other make the world a better place.
I think two of the most uncanny experiences I had during the last 5 years has been sort of watching the first deepfakes. I thought this can be used to really, really bad things, and they will be, because that's what humanity is about. And watching the robot dogs with the sort of walking around saying, well, not far from now is going to be a human standing up, and then it's going to be armed, and then it's going to invade Poland from Russia, or whatever. I mean, these things can be used in a bad way, and that is the plane crash. And I think we are seeing it, and I don't think we've seen the beginning of it. And I really think we need to think about this. I'm sorry about it, but I really think this is difficult.
Okay, any more? Any more? Can I ask a quick question? Your slide, I think your slides are brilliant, by the way. I love this. The resistance is futile slide, was that done by a human or by AI?
It is a teamwork between myself and Midjourney.
Because you said Doctor Who and the Daleks, and it wasn't Doctor Who and the Daleks, it was, of course, the Borg from Star Trek.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Not Doctor Who, so
Sorry,
I
that's
have to
my
pick
bad.
you up on that. Sorry about that.
You cannot blame that on the machines. That is a human error.
Yeah, I'll wear my Star Trek costume next Radio Days. Are there any other questions at all? No, if not, I thought that was absolutely fantastic. We must be back again. Lars and Kåre, thank you very much.